Hi, welcome to the Technology Evangelist podcast. I'm Dr. John Fluke, Technology Evangelist. And today I want to talk to a good friend of mine who I've known for, probably almost 30 years. Um, we worked together at Dental Products Report forever. And he is now the senior managing editor at Dentistry Today. Everybody, say hello to my buddy Stan Goff. Stan, thank you for joining me.
My pleasure. Hello, everyone. Great to be here.
Yeah. Yeah. So Stan, one of the things that I always start off with, as you probably know, is the origin story. So, wind us back as far as you want to go. And because I think people are fascinated by this stuff. Just tell me, how did you end up, working in the dental publication business and end up at Dentistry Today? So kind of just take us through how you got there.
Sure. I didn't go to school to become an editor for dental publications. At least I didn't think so at the time. But yeah, a lot of things along the way. I mean, I did go to journalism school in Southern Illinois, so I always wanted to be a writer.
Are you a Saluki, just out of curiosity?
Yes, the Salukis.
Oh
Yes.
my gosh. Okay.
Yeah, so Walt Frazier was the famous basketball alum there. So,
Mhm.
in fact, there was a dental event at Greater New York a few years ago. It was at a restaurant called Clyde's or something, and it was at Walt Frazier's place. But but now we're getting a little off topic. But I always wanted to be a writer. A lot of it, to be honest, was because I was a sports fanatic. So I think I tell some of my friends or my kids actually these days in grade school, we used to type up a little newspaper and staple it together and go from yeah, I was at a little Catholic school and we would go from room to room and sell it for like a nickel. We were the St. Agnes Wildcats, so it was the Wildcat Report. So I always kind of wanted to be a writer and an editor, and so I got a journalism degree and I started in newspapers. Since I didn't get to just jump right into being a sports writer, I was doing all kinds of news stuff early on. And back in the day, they called it something like a cub reporter. So
Oh
I
yeah, which is
cover.
great for you.
Yes, I would. Yeah, really. I happen to be a Cub fan, but for instance, I would cover city council meetings, school boards, some stuff that was important to the town, didn't necessarily thrill me. And then
Right.
I eventually got into sports writing, which was primarily high school and college at the time. And I see you've got your baseball there, so
Always.
I was thinking of you today. I've got one here from I
Ah,
think this was a Rockies game where I got it was during batting practice, but I got an Alfonso Soriano home run ball. So,
ooh,
but
that's a
anyway,
treasure.
so I got into writing and journalism in large part because I thought it was an exciting field. Back in those days, you're hearing about these investigative reporters and how cool it is and this and that, and I also love sports. So at the time, I actually had no idea that there were trade publications for pretty much every industry. I mean, you just don't, who knows, you're going to college and you find out later on that there's 10 companies that put out magazines just for dental, dentists. It's like, wow, had no idea. But so I was in the newspaper business for quite a while, and a friend of mine ended up switching over to Dental Products Report. And we're talking like mid 1990s. And I'm like, what are you doing? And he loved it. And one of his bosses was Gail Weissman, probably somebody you recall and know well.
Yep, I do know
Uh,
Gail.
Fabulous person. So after a while, he kept telling me how great it was, and he's like going to New York for the Greater New York meeting, and he's having fun, and he's like, Stan, this is pretty cool, and I'm like, and sure enough, I shifted over to a Dental Products Report, and this is back in the late '90s, so I've been doing this a while, and it kind of stuck, and it was just like I didn't think, writing about teeth and and dentists. It was all that exciting until I got into it. And then I realized how much you guys have to know and learn and practice to put into it. And then I started, early on, Gail had me uh, for some reason put me in charge of like learning all about lasers. So I was going to the Academy of Laser Dentistry meeting every year out in California and hanging out with some really cool, knowledgeable laser people. And there was the the WCMID, World Congress of Minimally Invasive Dentistry. They were, a lot of them were the laser people, but also a lot of them were just, Dr. Kim Cooch people who'd study caries and just, preventive stuff. And I, th-
Right.
I thought that was all amazing. Like 20 years ago, people are talking about how they want to just prevent cavities. I'm like, wow, that's pretty cool. I thought all you have to
Yeah.
do is just, let people get a cavity. They come to the dentist, you fix them, you send them out. But so just along the way, I was just amazed at the number of products, the number of technologies, the number of techniques, the number of things you and your colleagues. I mean, I'm still amazed at how you guys even keep up with things.
Yeah, it is. It's a challenge. I mean, it really is. And I've always been fascinated with it, and I'm not really sure how I fell into the technology thing, but yeah, I mean, it just led to so many things of, like studies of caries and
Yeah.
endodontic stuff for me. Um, and it's funny, it just kind of encompasses people. I always say that it's funny to me how people get into the field, even in sales or
Yeah.
administration or publications or whatever. I say it's like the Hotel California. People check out, but they never leave. They might move around in the
Yeah.
industry, but like you're at a trade
Yeah.
show or whatever, and you see somebody and you're like, hey, how you doing? And
Yeah.
like, how are things at company X? And they're like, oh, okay, I left there 7 months ago, but now I'm over at company Y, and
Yeah.
it's just kind of interesting how it gets kind
Yeah.
of in people's blood and they just
It,
like it.
it it really does. And then you also, I mean, you can see why number one, dentists would be passionate about it, but also people. I mean, we all want to be healthy, and we learn about all the ties to it used to be oh you got a toothache, whatever, pull that tooth out,
Right.
fix it, whatever, and now there's just so much research and science about the importance of health. And just and then you find out about children that don't get the proper care, or women's health that could be affected now that they know more. I mean,
Right.
it's not just, hey, fill that tooth and move on. It's there's a lot of science behind this.
Well, and that really is something that we've seen. Well, and it's interesting too with you coming from like a print background, is that you've seen both the changes in the publication world at the same time that you've seen all the changes in dentistry. I love to tell the story that when I was in dental school, there was an instructor of mine. He's probably not even alive anymore. I mean, he was a great human being, but the word on the street was that he graduated from school and then never practiced and just taught his whole career. And he was a very low key guy. He was always a clinical professor. He never advanced or did anything. And one time he told me, he said, the great thing about dentistry is that with the training you're going to get here, you probably won't need to learn another thing for the rest of your career. And to think like, I don't do literally anything. I don't even do injections the same way,
Oh yeah,
you
right. I
know?
mean, and we're fortunate you don't.
Yeah.
No, I mean there's
Amen.
been, yeah, I mean obviously he wasn't practicing, but you're right. I
Right.
mean, things have changed so dramatically. I mean,
Oh yeah. I mean, if you don't, it's like a moving sidewalk, if you're not, trying to move forward, it's going to push you backwards.
yeah,
You
yeah.
have no choice.
I mean, we used to do a lot of survey reports back in my dental practice report days, and it was back then. It would be like, "Wow, do you have paperless charts?
Yeah.
Do you have a computer in your office, anywhere in your
Yep.
office?" And those were big. I mean, that was, and now it's like, wow, how would anybody operate without computers everywhere, and making so many things so much more efficient, and just the record keeping. I mean, that's crazy, the changes that have happened in just 20 years.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. So you started at DPR, and then when DPR decided to call it quits, you went over to Dentistry Today. Um, what are you doing at Dentistry Today these days with my buddy, Dr. Paul Feuerstein?
Yeah, well, number one, working with Paul is great. Obviously, you and him go back way
Yeah.
back, and he's just a fabulous person. Um, so I do a lot of very similar stuff to the old DPR days,
Okay.
Josh Board days, and in fact, it's just, I mean, one of the biggest things is there are new dental products coming out every day. That's another thing I didn't think was a thing when I started here. I'm like, oh yeah, someone's a new flavor of toothpaste, or oh, someone's going to invent a nicer toothbrush,
Right.
but just the fact that the material research and the equipment research and the delivery systems, everything, well, we can get into AI later, just
Sure. Yeah.
AI affecting everything, but just so the new product reporting. Dentistry Days doesn't do everything exactly like Dental Practice Report. There are different publications, different focuses at times, but when it comes to like quick news and getting information out right away for the dentist about products, the website's the same. We got a new
Right.
product. We want to get the news out there, and so we want to make sure we have connections with the companies that notify us on a regular basis, so we can notify people on a regular basis. But then at the same time, I work a lot of times I'll just follow up with trying to get a dentist, somebody on our staff, or I'll pick Paul's brain a little bit to find out, because I mean I've been doing this a long time, but I am not a dentist.
Right.
I'm not. No one wants me pulling their teeth and filling their cavities and reading. And I've looked at an awful lot of X-rays, and I'm still not seeing the same thing you guys are seeing.
Sure.
So
Well, I was just going to say that, one of the things you talked about, finding dentists and talking to them and stuff, is that Paul has told me that, and this is for everybody that's watching, Paul at Dentistry Day, he's always looking for good authors. So I'm gonna pitch him and stand here real quick. Just if you've ever wanted to write or you've ever wanted to educate, it's not like you got to have an in anymore,
Sure.
I
Oh,
know this
sure.
person here, that these guys are always looking for people that have got, interesting cases, or
Yeah.
even just like in-office research or case studies that you're doing. Reach
Yeah.
out to Dentistry Today, because these guys are looking for that kind of stuff
Oh,
all the
yeah.
time.
Yeah. We'd love to hear from you. Yeah. And Paul's really good at, making sure when he sees something that he makes sure it's got just the perfect spin and it's just right for the audience. But I welcome it all. Bring it on, because
Yeah.
and I've always told clinicians, sometimes you might be a tremendous dentist and you might not feel like you're a tremendous writer. Doesn't matter.
Yep.
You have this great case you worked on, the great results. You've got nice photos. We can help present it so that everybody else can see
Yeah.
the great work you're doing, and also teach them along the way. So just the education part of it is just reading, seeing a case study that, number one, it might look really amazing and overwhelming to you. Number two, you learn how to very possibly do that yourself.
Right. Well, and it's, what I mean, it's like anything that you do. I've always kind of dealt in the new stuff, and I always tell doctors that, in the first time you do anything, the first time, it's hard. You make mistakes, and then you learn from those. You don't give up, you keep going. And every time that, you make a mistake, we learn from it. I like to say that, you know, the average number of steps a child takes before they fall over is one.
Yeah.
Statistically, truly,
Yeah.
like a kid learns to walk, take one step, the second step, they fall. And yet we all walk,
Right.
it's not like we gave up on that. And
Exactly.
and so yeah, learning to, to put articles together and learning to do those things.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've ever told you this or not, Stan, but the way I got started writing was I always liked to write. Like when I was in high school, I wrote a short story for a class, and the English teacher told me this is really good, and she sent it in to the Kansas City Star, and they published it. And when I was, I don't know, like 15 or 16, got $50 for it. It was a
Wow. Back
huge
then,
payday back in the day. Yeah. But anyway, so the way I got started writing in dentistry was a friend of mine way back in the old days had a newsletter, and he would type it up in his office on, I think he used like a word processor. I don't think it was a main or like an electric typewriter,
Yeah.
but anyway, and then he would make copies of it, staple them, fold them by hand, and then
Wow.
mail them to people.
Sounds a
And he
little like
asked,
my grade school newspaper.
yeah, very, very much like the Wildcat Report. And I'd met this guy, and we'd kind of gotten to be buddies. And one day he emailed me and he said, "Hey, could you write an article?" And I remember my first thought was, I, I'm not a writer. I don't know how to. And then I kind of thought about it, and I was like, well, I mean, in all seriousness, when I was 16, I did have that thing in the Star. And so I kind of kicked it around, and I thought, nobody's probably going to read it anyway, so who cares? So I took a flyer. I was like, all right, yeah, I'll give it a shot. And I typed something up, and that crazy little article that I was afraid to do was what triggered this whole career that I have outside of clinical practice. So
Sure.
you never know where this stuff's going to go, folks. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
give yourself more credit probably than I think than most of us do as individuals, and just take a flyer.
Oh yeah, and always remember, no one's on their own. You know, you write something if
Yep.
it's not perfect, not that I can make it perfect,
Right.
but others will help make it better and just right. And also when you have I mean, storytelling is always a big thing. I mean, I last year I got invited with Pam from Dental Economics,
Yeah.
and Dr. Tom was with the um, Dental Town at the time, but
Yep.
there was like a six or seven of a panel about Kevin Henry, your buddy Kevin. He was there.
Yeah.
We got invited to go up and do a presentation for this group of dentists and office managers, and it was on media and dental and kind of teaching people how to write stuff, and it was just a lot of fabulous questions, and a lot of the people in the crowd were, initially like, oh, I don't know that I'm not really a good writer. We're like,
Right.
if you have a good story to tell, and you can share those good thoughts and a lot of times you're educating somebody that makes it even better. I mean, so
Yeah.
and there's people that
Absolutely.
yeah, so and there's people that want you to tell these good stories and they'll help you tell these good stories
Yeah.
and again, it's all helping the whole community.
Right. Well, and I mean, in all seriousness, you look at like the cover of Dentistry Today, they always have usually a cover shot of one doctor. And then I think it's normally on the cover, three doctors down the left-hand side.
Yeah.
And if nobody takes a chance and writes anything, it'd be the same four faces every month. And, 2 or 3 months, all the readers are going to go,
Exactly.
isn't there anything? I mean, seriously, isn't there anything
Right.
else? Not that those people don't have great articles,
Right,
but,
exactly. No,
you
but
know,
you're right, and it's also and it helps you get a varied voice and different topics, and
yep.
yeah, and again, there's a lot of good dentists, and you guys can share information on online forums and talk to your buddies, and you get together at trade shows. But if you have a really good case and you want to share it with somebody, that does help a lot of people. That number one, they're interested, and number two, it might be something that they could put to work in their practice right away.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. So what do you think in like the last 5 years, what's been your take on this? Let's say like post-COVID, because
Yeah.
COVID was a complete nightmare for the world, but for the
Yeah.
profession too. But
Sure.
what do you think you've seen the most changes in since COVID?
Boy, that's a big question. There's a
It
lot.
is a big question.
Um, uh,
We can go down a lot of rabbit holes with this
yeah,
one.
exactly. I mean, I can say that initially, attendance at trade shows was struggling a lot, and I think it's
Yes.
because number one, initially people maybe were even a little hesitant to just jump back into it. Some
Yep.
people, some people didn't want to fly right away. Some people didn't want to be in crowds. I think we've gotten beyond all that. In fact, I saw something on the news this morning that said in Chicago here that we're at pre-COVID traffic at O'Hare Airport. So
Wow.
that's behind us. But just the ability to get education online. I mean, I didn't know what Zoom was in 2018 or what 2017, and
Yeah.
all of a sudden, who doesn't know what Zoom is, and who hasn't been on
Yeah.
Zoom, and who's not on Zoom right now?
Yeah. Yeah. No,
So
you're absolutely
so
right.
it changed the way you could educate and share information. And but I do also think, I'm, Greater New York and Chicago Midwinter and hopefully CD8. Some of these shows are still doing quite well now, maybe not pre-COVID terms, but just so one of the biggest changes is education. I mean, you can get it now without hopping on a plane or flying your whole staff to an event. Not that you shouldn't do that, and not that we don't want to see, success at some of these shows going forward, but
Sure. Yeah.
but education and digital education CE was a huge change. But then in terms of like the products, you know, there was a huge awareness of all this infection control stuff around the world when COVID hit, but and there was new stuff that people were promoting for dental practices. But I think in most part, dental offices were, I mean, infection control is not new to you guys. I mean,
Right.
I mean,
Yeah, they found out, post-COVID, they found out that we were actually doing a pretty good job, which I
exactly.
thought
I mean,
I thought was
yeah,
great for the profession.
all these things that everyone's saying people should be doing. You're like, hey, we've been doing
Yeah,
that
we've been
for
doing that since the 80s.
I think the very first, actually, if I recall, the very first trade show I ever went to was an OSAT meeting in Cincinnati, like in 1999. And I'm like, and
Wow.
my friends are like, you're going to a meeting about infection control. But I mean, there's a lot of companies there and a lot of very passionate people, and it's important stuff, you know.
Yeah.
Do
Well,
you know
you
what?
think about it.
You
I grew up, my first 2 years in dental school, no gloves.
see, that's, I mean,
Yeah. Yeah. And look at, where's the world changed,
I think one of my first laser articles I did for DPR, there was a dentist, and he was a tremendous laser dentist. And he had sent us some photos, and he was just showing us how to use a laser, and he wasn't wearing gloves. And
Yeah.
we're like, wait a minute, time out. We need a different picture.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
wasn't, I mean,
Even though you're not touching a human being, it has the appearance that you're touching a
yes, he
human
was
being.
not.
Yeah.
He wears gloves when back then he wore gloves when he saw his patients, but he
Right.
was just demonstrating, some of the cool things he could do with a laser. But
Yeah.
but you're right, things have changed. I mean, dramatically. I mean, so that's one of the things. And then just and not even so much since COVID, but just I know you used to write a regular column, and a lot of times we couldn't help but get into 3D printing because
Right.
I mean, it's a pretty cool thing, and then it just seems like every week we learn that there's a new application in dentistry. I mean, you hear about other things people are printing with 3D printers outside of dentistry, but just the fact that I mean, and you could tell me, I mean, there, some of the stuff we've done with Pactent seems to have a new resin out every month
Yeah.
that does an amazing thing, and they're not alone. And I'm not trying to single anyone out, but
Sure.
just 3D printing just is taken off.
It's amazing to me. What I think of, and I've told this story before, but I don't remember what year it was. In fact, you might remember. Um, it wasn't this year, but the last time before this that the ADA was in DC. Do you remember when that was? What year?
And no, it's been a while. So
Yeah, it was like 2015, 2016,
that sounds about
2017.
right. And I didn't go to that one. That sounds about
Okay. So I was walking around the show floor at that meeting and I saw my first dental 3D printer. And I'd seen 3D printers before. Kind of funny, I'd seen them at like community events in Kansas City where they'd have areas for kids. And there would be these little tiny, the filament
right.
FDM printers, and they would make little, toys and stuff for the kids. And I was like, that is so amazing. But I never thought about any kind of applications in healthcare. And then I was at this meeting in DC, and I wish I could remember who it was, but I can't. But there was one of the companies that was showing a 3D printer. And I went in the booth and I was looking at things and they were showing me stuff they printed. It was amazing. And it was like dentures and
Hmm.
retainers and stuff. And I said, how do you design this stuff? How do
Yeah.
you, and I don't know how much you know about 3D printing, but they opened up a program called Blender, which is still around. There's actually Blender Dental now, which is how
Oh,
specific it's
really?
gotten. But Blender is a program that's like for engineers. Like if you're making a prototype part for something that like you're trying to build. And so it's horribly complicated. It's like Photoshop, I mean, there's all these. And I remember looking at that and thinking, oh my gosh, I mean, this is so complicated. I could see maybe a lab investing in this and then, really spending the time. But it was one of those programs where it's like, if you don't use that every day,
It's gonna be.
yeah, I mean, just like Photoshop, I mean, I've
Yeah.
tinkered with Photoshop and it's amazing. But by the time I get something beautiful and then I go to use Photoshop again, it's been like 2 weeks and I'm like, how do I do that? But now the design process is so easy
It's
that it's almost just clicking the next button. AI proposes stuff, it shows you where things ought to go. I mean, it designs crowns, designs
That's
occlusal
the great, yeah.
guards.
I mean, that's yeah. When I first heard about them a few years back, I'm thinking, oh, that make a night guard. Okay, that's kind of
Yeah,
cool, and I didn't really think. I'm like, yeah, that's I kind of thought that was it.
yeah,
Boy, was I wrong.
yeah. Well, and I mean, there are labs out there now, big commercial labs that are just like printing
Cranking.
dentures, they've got them stacked up on the build plate and they're doing like 12 arches at a
and
time,
they're
just boom,
and
boom, boom,
and
boom.
the printer's going 24 hours a day.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
it's come a long way. And then, let's get into the AI thing a little bit. Before we get into dental, let's jump back a little bit and ask you about like the journalism side of this, because I asked
sure,
Noah this. How much
sure.
of the AI stuff are you guys using on your side?
Pretty much, it's funny when in my previous position, previous employer, like
Right?
about 3 years back, it was kind of like a mandate, AI, 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 take every press release, run it
Hmm.
through there, save a lot of time, do this and that. And then there was a little bit of a step back from that. They were kind of like, you know what? Some of these press releases that were very quickly using AI to rewrite, they all sound the same, like everyone else is doing the same thing.
Yes.
They're also not sounding all that great, So
Yeah.
we kind of stepped back from that a little bit. But since then, it's improved. I mean, if you're not using it, I mean, some people out there are still a little bit of afraid of AI,
Right.
but I tell them if you're not using it in any fashion, you are kind of wasting time because it's got so many capabilities. I'm not talking about taking anyone's jobs or doing anything like that. I'm
Right.
just
Right.
saying, we use it. I'll use it for like, editing the long document just to kind of clean it up a little bit. If I'm going to interview somebody and it's on a topic I'm not incredibly, or even if I think I know a little bit about, I'm talking to an endodontist or something, and I could
Yeah.
just ask it, hey, give me 8, good questions to ask an endodontist about this.
Yep.
And boom, right away, I've got, 10 questions. Maybe I want to throw one of them out. Maybe one of them is not tremendous, but it just does save you time and it can do an awful lot. And then just the other days, I was doing a Zoom call with some coworkers, and they were trying to work on some promotional things, and they wanted to take Paul's auto signature off of his column and put it
Right.
somewhere else and make it look cool and have this thing built around him. And
Right.
I would have never even thought to. They cut it out, dropped it into a chat GPT and said, clean up this signature, make it fatter, make it bolder, make it a different color,
Yeah.
and it's still Paul, it's still the signature.
Yeah.
And then also just like for video editing and purposes like that. Now I don't do as much video editing as I used to. I was never trained on it initially, so it's not a fun, easy thing to do.
Oh
It's
man.
time consuming. So, but again, that's something that AI can help with an awful lot. So just planning, editing, thoughts, ideas. I mean,
Yeah.
again, if you never tried it, you need to, and if you're afraid of it, you need to just realize, you don't have to do everything with it. And
Right.
you do have to, check things out, read things over again. So,
Yeah. And I agree. It's a tool. Kind of a
yeah.
funny story on that is years and years ago, you'll remember it. Kodak came out when Kodak was still in dental. They came out with some cameras, some digital cameras, take like patient photos with
Mhm.
and stuff. And they had a whole, patient photo kit that you could buy. And I had one of the cameras, and I would occasionally bring it home um, because it was, I mean, the camera images were amazing. And so I would come home and take family photos with it. And back then, a lot of the digital cameras would timestamp the photos. So, you would
Yeah.
have like the month, day, and year in the bottom right hand corner. And my wife was cataloging some of the family photos, and she was she was at her computer, which is next to mine, and she kind of sighed. And I was like, "What?" And she's like, "I want to get the date off of this, but I got to crop the photo so much that I'm losing a lot of the background." And I said, "Email it to me." So she emailed it to me. I put it in Chat GPT, and I said, "Take the date off of this photo." And I
Boom.
mean, it's kind of a stupid application for it because I think most
Uh,
people that are using it probably like, "Duh," but I mean, my wife was just like, "Oh my gosh, you can do that." And I was like, "Yeah,
Yeah.
it's really not that hard." So, but you know what, getting back a little bit to the thing where we were talking about writing and people,
Yeah.
wanting to write, if you've got that great case study, but you're like, I'm not really sure how to do this. I mean, even just sit down. What I'll do sometimes is I'll say, I want to do, a column, or I want to do 1,000 words on this topic, and I'll try and give it a bunch of prompts that I
Yeah.
can, but then I'll be like, give me 10 points I should hit, or give me like how I should lay this out, kind of a thing. And it will give you kind of like, it won't write it. I mean, it could write it for
Yeah.
you, but it wouldn't be
Yeah.
good, I don't think.
Right. But
But
it,
it'll help you. It'll give you
yeah.
ideas.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
that's the thing, what I, like I'll go to radiographic for a second. One of the things that I love about Pearl is that the name of their radiographic program is Second Opinion.
I thought that's
And
brilliant. That's a brilliant.
yeah,
I mean, that's what it
exactly,
is.
because that's what it does. And so, what I've always said about it is it's really kind of like, you bring your x-ray up and then you look at your friend and you're like, if you're a dentist, I say, hey, Stan, look at this bite wing and tell me, do you see anything on the distal of 13? Well, when you're writing, it can be the same thing. It's like, hey, Stan, do you think, help me, or, is this a decent outline or whatever? And that's what a lot of this can do for you, is even if you create something and then say, can you clean this up, make it look a little bit better, or,
Yeah.
take out my run-on sentences. I mean,
Sure.
that's,
Yeah. And
but the caveat is you got to read it to
yes,
make
right. You
sure.
can't just say, here, write me an article and then go with it.
Exactly.
You're going to regret that.
Yes.
And it also, in the reversed action of what you were saying, is sometimes I'll have an article that's done and we like the way it is. And then I ask AI to give me, to pull out some of the key things. And that way I got a sidebar, or I got some bullet
Yeah.
points I add somewhere. And so, and I could do that myself, obviously, but
Right.
it can do it a lot quicker. And
Yep.
you don't have to accept everything it gives you, but a lot of times
Right.
it gives you stuff to work with.
Well, and occasionally, well, I shouldn't say occasionally, it happens a lot, but I'll get like scientific articles sent to me, like research articles.
Yeah.
And sometimes I get behind and I'm like, okay, I can't read 10 of these
Yeah.
today, and drag those in there and say, give me a summary,
There you go.
and it, once again, I mean, it's not the article, but it will give you like the major points, and then you can kind of digest that as you're reading it. And
Exactly.
it
And
just,
you might read the summary and realize that you don't need to read the rest of it.
yeah, exactly.
That one I might skip that one because this
Yeah.
summary tell me that's not, but yeah,
Yeah, because sometimes even the titles can be misleading. You would think, hey, that might be, something really good, but by the time you spend, the time to read 5 pages, you're 3 pages into it and you realize, okay, the title, what I thought I was going to find in here, I'm not finding.
yeah.
And so it's a tool.
I was
That's
going
my
to say
big thing. It's a tool.
and it's a tool that can really save you a lot of time. I mean,
Yeah.
and so yeah, there's and we're seeing more about AIs in the news every day. Yeah, so
Yeah.
you know, so
Well, I've always said that the best thing I think that happened to the dental AI companies is that the major ones were already on the market when ChatGPT made the big press announcement in
okay.
February of 22. And then suddenly, for months, you, I mean, that was like you couldn't look at like if you went to the New York Times homepage, somewhere on there, there'd be one or two articles that mentioned AI. And it was like that for months, like you looked at the front page of Fox News or CNN or whatever your sites are, there were articles all over the place. And suddenly, I mean, that was like free marketing for those
Oh
companies,
yeah.
because people
Yeah.
were like, wow, there's really something to this.
Yeah, and initially, like you said, it was for X-ray diagnosis, but now the applications, again, like everything else, it's the AI can help you, with your front office, with your, scheduling,
Yeah.
with everything. And in fact, when I was in Las Vegas in September for the DS World, we took a little field trip out to visit a doctor and who opened a new practice, a second one out in Vegas, and he doesn't have a staff. And some people are like, "Oh, that's crazy." I mean, he's got an assistant when he's in there treating patients.
Yeah, Dr. Todd Snyder is who you're talking about, right? Yep, he's
Yep.
been on the podcast and he's kind of
Okay.
talked about that. Like, just so you know, so you're not telling
Yeah.
tales out of
No,
school.
his delivery chair looks out at this beautiful scenery and like a minor league baseball field across the
Yeah,
street and the pine tree or palm trees. But I mean that's I mentioned that to someone a while back and they're like, oh well, I mean, the guy's got no staff. What kind of? I'm like, he's there a couple days a week. He's in California a couple days a week. He's doing amazing. He's taking amazing care of his patients. He just lets AI handle a lot of the paperwork, a lot of the
Yep.
scheduling, and it's pretty incredible.
Yeah. Yeah. And he does phenomenal work. If anybody watching, if you haven't looked up Dr. Todd Snyder on Instagram or somewhere, check him out because the guy, um, he is like dentist to the stars. The dude does some
Yeah,
incredible
yeah.
dentistry.
And in
But
this
yeah,
new office, he
I
also had
want to see his new office too. I haven't been out to it yet,
it had
and I need to do that.
he's got a separate podcast room in the
Ah,
back,
see,
but
that's
then
what
he's
I need.
But then he's got a big CE area where it's just, he's lecturing with people around the world, and it's just,
Yeah.
I mean, again, education, there's a lot of ways to get it, and
Yep.
there's a lot of good education out there.
It's funny that you said that about around the world too, because I've done a lot of programs over the years with Viva Learning.
Yeah.
I'm sure you know, and I always thought it was interesting that with Viva, oftentimes I would do a program and you would look at like the demographics and it was people from all over the world. And now, I mean, at the time that I'm talking about when I saw it, um, broadband wasn't as big a deal, and you needed to really, like have good hardware and have everything, honed in from the broadcast point so that you could get it to everybody and they could get it and, see it and hear it in real time. Now, I mean, like I said, you can do that from anywhere. You can do it from your kitchen table.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, yeah, I mean, it is amazing.
You know, I don't know if you know I did this or not, but I was doing some work with BN Air, the handpiece people this year,
Yeah.
and we wanted to do some hands-on stuff. We didn't want to do it with patients. We wanted to show the handpiece and how it worked and stuff. But I don't know if you've ever been involved in anything where you try and shoot stuff in the human mouth, and man, the camera angles and the lighting, and you're zoomed in tight and things move a little bit and suddenly everything, the camera's pointing this way and everything else is going that way. So we decided to use extracted teeth that we mounted in blocks and worked with them. And we shot the whole thing on my kitchen table.
Wow.
I mean, literally, I was the the guy from BN Air and I that were working. It was only two of us that worked on it. And we were laughing about how, 10 years ago, it probably would have taken like a video studio and I'll bet $100,000 worth of equipment to do
Right.
that. And I mean, we shot
Boom.
that's like 2 days worth of video. I mean, like close up hands, like my only thing you can see in the, on the screen are my hands, the handpiece, and a tooth, perfectly well lit. And we shot it with, off the shelf stuff that
Wow.
anybody can get. So it's not like it's hard to do that stuff these days. It really
Yeah.
is.
Yeah. Speaking of being there, they have some nice hand pieces, which I think
Yeah.
I've
Oh,
worked with you on some articles over the years with that.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
They make some incredible equipment. And the whole thing, even with just electrics in general, what a game changer that is
yeah.
to do that. I think at some point in time, people will look back and they'll say, remember when we used to use those whiny, things, it'll be like, I mean,
What's
you
an
know,
air grip?
it's like scanners and impression material now. There are still people taking impressions, and
Yeah.
that's fine if that works for you. But most people that scan will say, "Oh, I can't believe I ever had to go through that whole
And they're
thing."
not. It's not like they're going back.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's what's doing with electric. So probably a few people that are just like, "No, I like these," but I think the majority of the profession will be in electrics, and they'll be like, "I can't believe I ever did it the other way." Because
Yeah,
once you use them,
yeah.
I mean, it's like the difference between a bicycle and a car. They both get you where you want to go. Yeah, it's
But
one of those kind of deals.
one's working a little better or
Yeah,
easier,
yeah.
yeah,
The other thing that I'm looking at AI with, Stan, is this whole combining of the data. Being able to put the imaging
oh
together.
yeah,
I mean, you've probably seen some of that's come
Yeah,
up.
well, yeah, and I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. Is it Velmini? Velmeni? Yeah.
I think it's Velmeni, I believe. Yeah.
Velmeni, yes. Yeah. In fact, I think you might have been at the press conference. Gosh, would it have been Chicago Midwinter last February?
Hmm.
They had a press conference there,
Yes, I was there.
and I saw Dale Miles come up and help present for them, and I'm like, man, that guy did like a technology column for DPR like 25 years ago,
Yeah.
and now he's Mr. Cone Beam,
Yeah.
but yeah, it just the fact. I mean, like I said, initially it's like, oh, this AI is going to help us read some, 2D X-rays or whatever,
Right.
but now everything coming together, and you're seeing like mergers and just integration nonstop. I think even just this week, or maybe 2 days ago, Velmeni, if I'm saying it correctly, had some partnership, announced a partnership with like Jazz Imaging, where it's just gonna just go right in. And so, I mean, and that's just, an Overjet and Pearl,
Right.
every week are announcing a partnership, it seems like. And it just, the capabilities are amazing, but they're continually changing.
Well, and I know that Velmeni is in FDA right now, and for those people that aren't real familiar with it, it's basically AI for CBCT. And so, just like Pearl and Overjet and the other companies are doing that with bite wings and PAs,
Yeah.
Velmeni and some other companies are working on doing that with cone beam.
Yeah.
And I mean that is really gonna rock things.
Yeah, the endless evolution. It's just yeah.
Yeah. And then I've seen some stuff lately that's just in development, but merging the ability. I mean, there's things out there already that'll do it. Um, but taking like your intraoral scan and then being able to just like drop that right into your cone beam and combine those two data sets. And I mean, it's
Yeah, in fact, I think I saw kind of a demonstration of that recently at a technology summit in Arizona, but it's kind of like I'm not supposed to talk about it,
right. No, I
but
get that. I get it.
it's incredible. I mean, the future. I
Right.
mean, there's always going to be a need for a technology evangelist to explain all this changing stuff on a regular basis.
Well, it's so funny because doing technology, I would have from time to time, I'd have to do a column on like, what are the next five big things? What are the next 10 big things? Or, what are the five changes we're going to see in the next year kind of a thing. And I always stressed about those because it's such a hit or miss thing, to be able to
Yeah. All
say.
right.
But I will say that I'm trying to think when it was pre-COVID, that I made the prediction that we're going to have the continually updating 3D patient. And I just gambled on that one.
Yeah.
But I thought, if you can take an intraoral scan and that's all digital, and then you've got a cone beam and that's all digital, it just becomes math of being able to say, okay, this lines up with this and this is here. And I did hit that one. I'm kind of happy about that. Actually, it's a source of pride for me because I've been wrong on so many of those things. Oh, I think we're gonna, but it's going to be when like you think about it in healthcare, being able to, as a doctor, you take patient comes in, you do an intraoral scan as a new patient, you take a cone beam as a new patient. Over the years, probably once a year, you take an intraoral scan, and then whatever your frequency is for cone beam, you take those. And then, anytime you do a crown or orthodontics or anything, you're going to take a scan. And to think that you could then hold the patient's head in your hand and just do like that and look at them. This is the way they looked in January of 2019. This is how they looked in June of 2022, and take it apart
Yeah.
and look at it. I mean, the amount of information that you
Yeah, I was going to say
get
that.
from that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, it's flat out amazing
Yeah. And like you
where we're
said,
going.
some people are still using the old impression materials. But the scanners themselves, there's so many. The prices have come down. They've gotten wireless. They've gotten so
Yep.
accurate. I mean, there's just if you're a dentist, and you want to do any kind of digital dentistry, there's an easy foot in the door.
Yep. Well, and the other thing that it used to bug me, but now we've actually gotten to it, was I feel like probably maybe a little pre-COVID, but there was this big marketing phrase of digital workflow. Oh, you got to have a digital workflow. Well, the thing that bugged me about that was, okay, well, if you take digital x-rays and that's all you do, you got a digital workflow. I mean, in the broadest description. But now we actually have gotten to the point where you said digital dentistry, and really digital dentistry truly is the digital workflow, because nothing exists other than like the patient and then whatever the end product is, whether it's a retainer or a crown or an implant or an implant restored crown, whatever it is. I mean, everything else is virtual. And I mean,
And it's so quick and easy and accurate
yeah,
and like you said, now it's all integrated. I mean, boom, boom, boom. I mean,
yeah. Have you seen the Medi Smile from Shining 3D,
oh yes, yes, we did. Yep,
the
we
facial scanner? Yeah.
that's
And you can merge, the patient's face literally, and then you can merge their intraoral scan, and then you can merge that into the cone beam. I mean,
I-
you
yeah,
know,
it's it's crazy.
yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder sometimes if plastic surgery, because I mean, I'm dug deep enough into dentistry. I can't expand much, but it's like I wonder if they have that kind of stuff for plastic surgery. Because can you imagine saying that, we can't guarantee the results, but roughly this is what you would look like,
It would,
if we made, these changes and did these procedures.
yeah.
Because,
I think yeah, the technology and that information is all there. I mean, it's
yeah,
but just back to the dental side of it, just you wouldn't have thought, like airwaves and just everything that cone beam can help. I mean, obviously implants is a big one, but it's just
right.
there's just I mean, if you have a cone beam system and you have all these things working together,
Yep.
you know everything. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, what are you missing?
Right. Well, gosh, years ago, I was doing a program. This is probably 15 years ago. And I was really tired that day. And I think it was at lunch, a doctor came up to me and said something about, because I said, like, I got in late, I didn't sleep very well. And the guy basically kind of talked to me. He's like, have you ever thought about the fact that you might have sleep apnea? And I actually brushed him off because I
Yeah,
was like, you know what? I run. I'm thin. My blood
healthy,
pressure's
yeah.
low. No, I don't have sleep apnea. And then I got a cone beam. And I looked at my airway and I was like, huh,
Hmm.
yeah. And then I did a sleep study, and guess what? He was right. And so yeah, I mean, it's
Yeah,
hard to miss stuff when it's staring in the face like that.
yeah, yeah.
I
And
even know of an office that takes cone beams, and they'll actually 3D print the airway, and they'll
wow.
show it to the patient. And they're like, this is what a healthy airway looks like.
And this is
And,
you.
and yeah. And I mean, what a great
Wow,
education tool
exactly.
for that.
Exactly. Wow.
Yeah.
It's
It's just
crazy.
incredible.
Which is why, I mean, I imagine it's just I mean, you and many of your columns in recent years, I mean, I always was interested in how you got started in technology and tinkering and you like to do this and do that.
Right?
But as you see these things come into dentistry and help do the things you're doing and help people, and it's got to be a fun time to be a dentist.
Oh, you know what? Yeah, I can't imagine what the future holds. I honestly feel that I was born right on time, because as much as I like to tinker, I love having the perspective of I literally started with paper in the early days, and to see where it's gone. But it's funny now, I catch myself kind of like being my grandfather, because in the office there's three other doctors, and the oldest doc in the office other than me is 37 years old. And I catch myself like, oh my gosh, why, when I was your age, and it is fun. I mean, it's funny, but it's like, I do love having that perspective of where it's going, but I do wish that I could be practicing in 30 years
Oh
because,
man.
you'll look back on what we're doing now and think, dang, how did they ever make anything work? You know,
Yeah,
it's
it's crazy how much has changed just in recent years, and like you said, it's going to continue, and
yeah,
and it's all good for the patient. I mean,
yep. Well, and that's my big passion is, it doesn't matter if you're the CEO of a major manufacturer or a major supply company, or if you're, an administrative person that's filing the claims, everybody works for the patient. That's what it's all about.
yeah,
It's not about profit and loss or anything else. It's all about taking care of people. And and that's the thing about this revolution we're going through right now is that things may change faster in the next 5 years than they have in the last 15, but it's going to always be better for the patient.
yeah.
And that's the really cool thing.
You're finding things and treating things that you didn't find before, or you're finding them quicker, and you're preventing
Yeah.
more, problems, and it's just all good, all for the good of the patient.
Well, I mean, how long ago was it that you started to hear about sleep apnea?
Not
You know?
in dental term. Well, I mean, yeah,
Yeah, in dental terms. Yeah.
dental terms, never. It was, it's been a long, it was a while back before it was like. Now sleep dentistry is a huge thing.
Oh yeah. I mean, there are people that's all they treat,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
It's incredible to me just, how you think, how come nobody missed, or how come everybody missed that? Why didn't somebody, and there were probably a few,
Yeah.
but I didn't run into them. There were
But
probably a few geniuses that figured that out.
but again, it's all the whole big picture, the whole oral systemic thing. I mean,
Yep.
the more we learn and the more we research and the more science, it's crazy, which is why the dental industry is so important, and more people are aware of that, and pregnant women, and the whole perio, systemic link, but it's just, I mean, who would have, 30 years ago, there were none of those things were tied together.
No,
Yeah, if you
no.
don't, if you don't flush, you're not gonna, floss, you're not gonna get a heart attack, or you're not gonna get, you're not gonna have a low birth weight baby. Maybe you will,
Yeah.
but you
Yeah.
didn't. No one knew any of that, and the more, and it just, I think that has to even make it more rewarding for dentists. I mean, you're not just cleaning someone's tooth, you're helping their
Yeah.
overall health a lot.
Yeah. Well, and you think about it, it's funny how many patients will come in and they will say, for a cleaning, and they'll say something along the lines of, like, okay, go ahead and make me feel guilty, or something along those lines. I know
Yeah,
I'm not doing a very good job, but now it's not only, like, where you're not doing a very good job and you're going to get gum disease, and you could get a cavity.
yeah,
But now it's like you could have a heart attack.
right, and
You could trigger adult onset diabetes,
yeah,
lots of things like that. And so I think it gives us more credence and more respect because, we're not just concentrating on some little thing that most people, a tooth is really valued when it's gone,
right. You're right. I just, but I only needed to help chew my food. It's not.
Exactly. Yeah.
Not gonna
But
get me
most people
sick.
don't, walk around like you and I do thinking about it all the
Yeah,
time. But I think when you can think about the fact of, I've got to take some kind of like, diabetic drug, or
yeah,
I've got to take, something to, to
yeah,
keep my heart in balance or whatever. If you think, if you do these kind of things, I mean, look at the number of people now that are doing yoga and stuff because we figured out that stretching and doing all these things actually, helps you as you age.
yeah,
Flossing is kind of in one of those things now,
yeah,
I mean, because if you don't, you could shorten your lifespan.
yeah. And I do think the awareness has just helped a lot. I mean, there's
Yeah.
still people that don't floss regularly and not enough, or don't understand the importance, but I do think a lot more do. So
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And we've gotten so many, I mean, even the irrigating products. Like every powered toothbrush company makes some type of, I mean, in dentistry, call them irrigators, but people call them water flossers and
Yeah.
stuff. But anything that you can clean between the teeth, there are so many of them on the market,
Yeah.
and they're affordable that,
Yeah.
I mean, there's just no reason not to either floss or buy one of those.
Take care of those teeth.
Yep. All right, Sam, we're starting to bump up against the magic witching hour here, so we're gonna wrap it up. You got any like parting wisdom as a former ink-stained wretch that is now locked into the dental world?
No, I just want to say it's very briefly, just it's great to see people like you and Paul and Marty Jablow, still get together at events. There was something in Florida last month, I believe, or October,
Yep,
and then whether or not you're involved in this one that's coming up in Chicago this year, I'm not even sure.
yep, I'll be there.
Okay, I figured you would, but it's number one, it's great people that I've known for a long time. And number two, they're still doing great things. And I always get a kick out of it. So it's always good, like you said, a lot of familiar faces at these trade shows. And we've been doing this a long time, but it's good to see good people get the good word out there.
Yeah. You know, I have gotten to do some really amazing things in my career, but the best thing I got out of it was the relationships. It truly is, and that's, I think, the great thing about dentistry being the Hotel California is even if somebody leaves, they stay in the industry, you
Yeah,
still get to see them, you still get to communicate with them, you still get to work together, and
yeah.
that's the best thing to me.
Yeah, a lot of good people that I like to see and hang out with. And I've been in different positions, they've been in different positions, but they're still good people and we still like to hang out.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So real quick, just so people know, that's the dental VIP summit is what Stan's talking about. It's going to be on the Wednesday. I don't know the date off the top of my head. It's the Wednesday before the Chicago Midwinter kicks off.
Yeah. So
So look online for dental VIP summit, and you'll
good
find
people
all
and
the
good
info.
information.
Yeah, it's a tremendous event that,
Good.
and that's Marty's brainchild. I got to give my buddy Marty Jablow credit for that.
And since I didn't put any background, I'll just flash my Dentistry Today hat real quick here.
There you go.
But for now, I've got the normal little background. But yes, it's
Sure.
this has been wonderful. I always love hanging out with you.
Thanks, Stan. I appreciate it.
All right.
Everybody, thanks for watching. This is the Technology Evangelist podcast with me, Dr. John Fluke, the Technology Evangelist. We're brought to you by Medidenta Digital, who I am incredibly grateful for their support on this. We'll see you in the next episode. God bless.